Destin, I brought you presents.
Oh, dude.
Okay, here's
I
present
normally
number one.
give you presents, and you're giving me a present.
Oh, come on. I give you presents. I mean...
Yeah, you do. You sent me a pair of pants on my birthday one time.
Yeah,
I'm going to level with you. That was weird, but I love the pants.
Well, I knew you would love the pants.
I know, but it's...
You sent me crotch comfort underwear.
I did.
The first Christmas that I knew you.
Yeah.
And you're telling me it's weird I sent you pants. Pants are one layer further away from your skin than underwear.
Yeah.
And you're fixated on the pants.
You're right. You're right. You've logically put me into a corner here. Yeah, I know. Anyway, thanks for the gift. What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a stroopwafel from my flight on United.
Stroopwafel. I remember the first time I had a stroopwafel.
You just pop that open. Like I wouldn't.
I'm not going to eat it right now.
Well, I think we should probably eat it right now.
No, I don't want to eat it right now. Oh,
have you lost your mind? There's a stroopwafel in front of you right now physically, and you're going to not eat it.
I'm going to wait for coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I respect your decision, but when you open it, I mean,
you'd like
maybe 10% of that could go in my face hole.
Okay, we'll wait.
I like them stroopwafels. This episode not brought to you by Stroopwafel. This is real good. Okay, I brought you something else.
Okay.
Okay. These are for you.
Oh, they're coins.
Yes.
And they're in plastic. It's an Apollo 11 50th anniversary 1 ounce of silver coin.
They're space coins.
Oh, dude. It's got the module on it. That's so cool. It's got the Earthrise, and it's got the module in the background. I mean, it looks like it's performing a very aggressive maneuver. So it tells me whoever made this coin, it says trans-Earth injection of the CSM, the Command Service Module. Look how aggressive that turn is.
I don't know that makes a ton of sense, but it sure makes for a cool-looking coin.
It makes for...
Look at the composition.
Oh, here's another one. Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin. Oh, wow. It's their faces, like the side of their faces. And then there's a moon, and then like a shoe. Not a shoe, like a footprint. Apollo 11 50th anniversary, 1969 to 2019. 0.999 fine silver. These don't say United States of America on them. These aren't like government coins.
They're not government coins.
Okay.
And I've been fascinated by not government coins of late. I mean, I like government coins too, but I have discovered in the last 6 months or so what a lot of people have known for a long time, which is that there's this whole world of silver independent coin manufacturing where people figure out how to strike a coin they wanted to make as a not government just because they wanted to.
To mint a coin.
Well, or strike a coin.
Okay.
I mean, there are two different ways to make a coin. But
those are two different things?
Striking a coin and minting a coin. Yeah. I mean, man, there's so much to that. So to mint a coin is really just to make a coin in general. It's a generic overarching term because coins were created in Roman times in this temple dedicated to a lesser-known god named Juno Moneta. So in Spanish, moneda.
Oh, moneta, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yeah.
And mint somehow would seem to be a derivation of that word moneta, of that deity. So the idea was that the Romans were saying, your Roman official coinage is descended from on high. This has not only the backing of Rome, but it also has the full faith and credit of the gods above. Trade this in confidence. And so money was made in a temple back in the day.
Okay.
And so when you mint a coin, you are creating that new run of a coin. So the mint is like the introduction of the new line, the new coin, the new thing. When you strike a coin, that refers to the old system that people still use today of actually making the reverse and obverse of a coin.
Okay.
So like a stamp.
Okay.
You put your blank
You put
in
the
there.
negative of what you want to be on the coin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually doing something similar. I'm making injection molds for plastic parts, and I'm designing a positive of the part. In software, we put a material around the outside and make the negative, and I make a step file of that, which is a 3D CAD file, and then I'm printing the mold. I'm 3D printing the mold.
Yes.
For injection molding. I'm doing that lately. Anyway, so the point is somebody actually makes the reverse on some type of metal that you then hit with a hammer into metal.
Yes.
Into a softer metal.
Yes. So you've got your harder metal that stacks on top of each other, and it has room for a blank, a chunk of silver in this case, that goes in between. You put the two together, you whack it with a hammer, hopefully once. You pull the mold apart, top and bottom, and what's left is that blank is now imprinted with both sides of the coin, and it looks the way it looks.
Okay.
So that's when you say strike a coin, it's because there's physically a hammer strike involved. But a mint or a molded coin is the kind where you do exactly what you're talking about doing with your 3D printing. And in fact, people do make coins exactly the way you're making the parts. You create that negative, and something that you'll see online that's pretty cool right now is people making their own coins, and they do it with a specialized kind of red sand that you can then take your 3D printed piece, you put it in that red sand that is contained in two halves of a matching box. You set the coin in there, you lock the top and bottom of the box together, then you remove that, you look at it, and you're like, oh, well, they're perfectly imprinted in the sand. Half the relief of the reverse of the coin here, half the release of the obverse on the other side of the box. Then you put them back together, and you got a little hole to dump that silver or whatever metal you melt into.
Yeah, the sprue.
Hey, you've been doing this.
Yeah.
And you dump that in there, and it might take a few tries. I mean, it looks like it's not easy, but you can melt any metal you want, make a coin out of recycled cans or out of a precious metal like silver if you're really ambitious and sure of your skill set, maybe even gold. And so there's this whole world that's developing that is especially aided by 3D printing of people making their own coins of things that they care about and like in a more rough, poor, primitive way. That's what it would look like, not just if I do it, but when I get set up and do it. I'm going to do this for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Then there are also these independent mints that make the coins that they think people would like. And I always like to, goof around and go and look at all of their different websites and see the things that they're making. And I saw these two, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start giving people I really care about coins that are reflective of things they really care about. And it's actual value, so it's silver.
Yeah,
is
this a full ounce of silver?
Yeah.
So this is like, what's this worth now? Like $50?
No, a 2-ounce coin I think of as being worth $50. That's a 1-ounce coin. So right now, $25, give or take $1 or $2.
Okay.
And that's not accounting for the rarity of that particular design or coin, and that can add value. So 1 ounce of silver, even if it's garbage silver and the whole molding process went wrong and it's ugly, I mean, it still has its mineral value of roughly $25 right now.
Okay.
But that same 1 ounce, just like with a baseball card or a limited print on a work of art, can take on value and meaning of its own, and because there's a trade market for
scarcity
it as well. Yeah, yes, exactly that.
So there's two different types of value for the coins, what you're saying. So we've got the actual material value because it took energy to mine it out of the ground.
Yes.
And then you have a secondary type of value, and that is set up based on scarcity, supply, and demand. So, for example, NFTs.
Yes.
Non-fungible tokens.
Uh-huh.
So a non-fungible token in the crypto world is a way of proving that I have ownership of this digital asset.
I own that monkey in a sailor hat.
Right. To be clear, I've spent a lot of time learning about cryptocurrency. We did a whole episode on it back in the day. I'm not sold on NFTs at all.
Me neither. Why are you not?
Well, because of the same reason you handed me this coin. So the coin itself has physical value. I can use it for something.
What do you mean use it for something?
If everything else goes wrong or whatever, I can take this and melt it and use the metal for something.
Yes.
Okay, so it has value because of the scarcity of the metal ore in earth.
Yes, and because of, as you mentioned, the physical work it takes to get it out of the ground.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Those two things combined give it intrinsic value.
It took human life energy to do it, so an hour to get the ore out.
Mm-hmm.
It also took some type of fuel energy, whether that be solar power or coal or wood converting to steam, something powered a steam shovel or something, or a jackhammer more than likely, to get it out. And then it was crushed in a crusher, and then the ore was separated and smelted. So that's valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, an NFT seems like people that are trying to capitalize on the, oh, look, it's got a design. So it'd be like if you were to somehow hand me just the picture of these astronauts on this coin, but you can't do that because this actually has silver. So I don't know. My brain's kind of all over the place right now.
Well, I think the difference between the two is what we're discovering, or what we're testing out rather, are the limits of ones and zeros as reality. If that picture of a monkey wearing a sailor hat were to, you can't, the weakness is you can't break that NFT down into anything else. There is no rudimentary form. It's not like we used a certain amounts of our ones and zeros on that. And if we absolutely were desperate for more ones and zeros, we could melt down the digital picture of the monkey and the sailor hat and reuse them on something else to get by during a difficult time. You can't do that.
Do you want to open this can? Because I've spent so much time thinking about this.
I do want to open this can.
We're going to have the discussion about fiat and all this.
I think we should go a ways down that road. I think it's interesting, and I think it's something as simple as holding that coin in your hand. Here, I want to hold your other one. Something as simple as holding this coin raises a ton of questions about what actually is value.
So right off the bat, we have established two forms of value.
Yes.
One is an intrinsic value. These may be the wrong words, but the fact
Let's roll with it.
The fact that these atoms are Ag, they're silver, that has intrinsic value because of this. Like, you take all of Earth and you take all of the atoms on Earth, a certain percentage of those atoms are silver.
Not very many.
But because this is the domain that we play in as humans, is Earth, let's say there's 0.0005% of the atoms in this rock that we live on that are silver. Therefore, it has a certain scarcity, and that's the value. So that's an intrinsic value based on the amount of silver here.
Certain scarcity and a certain usefulness. Like, let's say 0.0005. Let's say we found a new atom, a new element called turd, TRD.
No. Let's do like unobtainium or something.
Oh, that's clever, because it would be hard to get.
Fantastaloid.
Oh, it's even better.
Have you ever heard of no-wanium? That one's crazy.
How long can you do this? Because that's excellent.
We'll just stop there.
It's very rare that we sit and do this, and I'm over here like, I just a minute, I got one, and you just keep reeling them off faster than I come up with it. You win. I bend the knee.
So no-wanium. Tell me about no-wanium.
No, I want to go with turdinium.
Okay.
So there's a new element called turdinium, and maybe it's just as hard to get out of the ground as Ag, as silver.
Okay.
But all turdinium does is it just smells like turd.
Okay.
You can't use it for anything. Well, you can put the same amount.
I can think of some uses for turdinium.
Like burn it on somebody's porch, running away real fast.
In a bag.
Damn it, Melanie! It's burning turdinium again. Well, put it out, Carl.
Oh, man. That's good.
No, silver does things is the point. The unique properties associated with silver means that it's not just that it's valuable, but also over the course of history, we discovered that it can be used for different things, killing werewolves. It has all kinds of various properties that give it value. So the value is really twofold. It's the work that goes into getting something hard to get, but also the thing that you get, it has to do something, even if it's just pretty. And turdinium is not pretty. It's brown, gross, smells bad. Silver, even if we just go with it, shiny and beautiful, that gives it value aesthetically. But also, there are things you can do with silver that you can't do with other things. So it has value because of its properties and also its rarity.
Oh my gosh, you just made me think of something. The reason gold is valuable is the standard, right? It has to do with the cones in the human eye. You know?
Look what you're doing.
You know what I mean? Like, so you might have palladium or platinum that might be just as hard or harder. I don't know.
They're pretty, but they're boring.
Yeah. But they may be just as conductive as other things. Man, that's interesting. So the reason gold stood out to the Incas and the Egyptians or whoever is because of the way you can see it with your eye. So I wonder if if platinum oxidizes?
I don't.
I don't either. Gold does a pretty good job of keeping its luster.
Yeah, it's interesting though because not all gold is the same. Certain Chinese pandas, the Chinese gold government coins have pandas on them all the time.
So they're called pandas?
You call them a Chinese panda.
Okay.
And they come in quarter ounce and full ounce, and that's a lot of money for a little bit of gold. But they will develop little red dots on them. It's part of how you can tell it's real gold from the 80s in China is wherever they're getting their gold, gradually it interacts with the atmosphere in such a way that little tiny red flecks will appear. And you know what you can do to make those little red flecks go away?
What?
Blowtorch.
Really?
Put it on a piece of metal, turn on a blowtorch, and hit it for about 5 seconds. And those little flecks of red go away. It looks just like the coin was just brand new, minted and shiny and perfect. Do you have any theories as to why that might be? Because I don't know.
I do know that there's a lot. Dude, my brain's everywhere.
Sorry, this is my fault.
I'll just give you two real quick. Number one, if you want to make red glass, you put gold in it. In silicon glass. Yeah, gold. Gold is used to make glass red. Another thing is when the Nazis were coming in to
frickin' Nazis,
all the different places, a lot of people had gold coins from like the Olympics or like a Nobel Prize and stuff like that. They would make a solution. What's it called?
With cyanide?
I don't know what it is, but it's called something like the word sounds like ambrosia. It's not. But it's a liquid. You can liquefy the gold, put it in a chemical form, and it's a red liquid. If can I Google? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, you're definitely allowed.
It's like rouge.
Gold is super interesting though because it can be separated and affected by other elements and other compounds in ways that strike me as super interesting. Like as you're Googling here, there's an abandoned gold mine that we used to ride ATVs up to in the gold country in Wyoming by where I live.
Aqua Regia.
Okay, what does it do?
I don't know. You can dissolve gold into liquid form. It's a mixture of nitric acid and hydrochloric acid. So you get that mixture, and you can, it's like a solvent, and gold will liquefy. Aqua Regia.
I wonder how you re-solidify that.
I don't know. Although gold is typically an inert metal, it will dissolve in aqua regia because of the unique action of nitric and hydrochloric acid. But all the molecules are still, all the atoms are still there. They're just in molecules. And you can then, boy, that's fascinating, isn't it?
So again, there's value because of the properties of these metals. So you are right that the human eye and the prettiness of gold is part of why we've liked it. But the Incas also understood that gold could do things other metals couldn't do.
Like what?
Be stretched incredibly
very
thin.
ductile.
It can gild.
You can make it into sheets and put it on things
in ways that you can't with
aluminum.
The
ductility is I've read where you can take just like an ounce of gold and you can pound it and cover like a whole football field or something crazy like that.
It's nuts. You go to the state capitals all around the country, tons of them are gilded. But it's not like that whole dome is solid gold through and through. It'd be worth gajillions, astronomical amounts. It's a tiny bit of gold that's covering these entire enormous domes at the top of all these Capitol buildings because gold just has weird properties. It does things other metals won't do, and a little bit goes a long way, and there only is a little bit, and that adds to the value equation.
That's interesting because there's a house that I pass often it burned down and they're rebuilding it. And I noticed they're putting in copper gutters, and I love copper gutters. I think they're beautiful.
Yes.
They're, crazy expensive, but I love it when people choose to invest the money in the copper gutters because I get to see it and it's pretty.
Yes.
And it makes me wonder why we don't use why do we use copper versus gold gutters? And the answer is because there's not a lot of gold.
And copper's also pretty, but it's much more abundant.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place here. Okay.
No,
cool.
this is exactly it because it's one thing to not think about value at all and just say, oh, it's valuable because the computer said so. I Googled it. It's worth this much. It's another thing to really stop and try to think, well, why is an ounce of gold worth more than an ounce of quartz? Quartz is pretty. Why is this one so important? How come I can buy a giant 100-ounce brick of copper in ingot form on Amazon for like $50 as a paperweight, but that would completely change my family fortunes forever if I had it in gold. They're both pretty. They're both shiny. The colors are sort of similar. They have some similar properties. And the value equation that answers that hypothetical question, why copper instead of gold, why the values, it's all stuff you're hitting on.
Yeah, but the value of gold is set because of the amount of atoms on Earth. If we lived on a planet called Nowapitor or, Goldiper.
Sure, that's a great name for one.
Yeah, and the rocks were gold, salt might be valuable.
Well, and that's what happened in the 16th century with the Spanish expansion to Central America. There's a whole bunch of gold that came back. It flooded the European economy, and it messed with things. Gold
Really?
was set at a certain value, and you got these Spanish galleons coming back with the fortunes of the New World. I mean, stuff that the Aztecs had worked for a millennia to get out of the ground. The stuff that had been pulled out of the ground in the native gold fields of the northern part, like Guyana and South America. All these ships come back, and, well, what happens if there are 100 ounces of gold in circulation and you show up with another 100? The value of the gold that was in circulation is now half as much because it's now half as rare.
Depending on the population.
There were pressures.
That's an interesting thing too, right? It's my understanding that physical gold is extremely valuable in India. And so from a young age, your daughters will be given jewelry, and you gradually accumulate more and more and more. And it factors in, I don't remember how, but somehow it factors into the wedding dowry. I don't remember how, but I went up to the Hindu temple in Nashville. I spent a lot of time with a buddy of mine, Sharad, and I just wanted to understand Hinduism and culture and things like that. And he was explaining to me that actually having the physical metal, at least back then, was important. And the currency in India, like even the paper money, had a thread of precious metal woven into the bill itself. So your coinage had intrinsic value, but your paper money also had intrinsic value because some of them would have, I don't know if it was gold or what it was, woven into the bill. So I thought that was interesting.
I just got a couple of bills like that.
Really?
That are almost entirely gold.
A bill is gold?
Yeah. There's a company making something called Goldbacks. I don't know who it is. I don't know if I think the same things as them, but I was intrigued by it. They came to an event in Rapid City, and they were giving out $1 Goldbacks as like a promotion, like, hey, look at this. So I got a couple of those. Like, this is really neat. It's about the size of a $1 bill, and it's got sort of that classic Lady Columbia kind of art. You can picture the like 19th century, holding the torch of liberty. It's all that kind of
like the Chicago World's Fair kind of feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except the bill is literally gold. It's like paper in its thickness and consistency, but it's literally gold. And then you've got colorful printing on it. And they're issued in the names of 3 states, not by the states, I don't think: New Hampshire, Nevada, and Utah. I just ordered a few of them. It's not like a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money to go and buy a bunch of precious metal. Like, it's more just kind of fun and interesting for me to see what people are doing.
How much would something like
artistry.
that cost?
$30 maybe I spent for a $5 gold back. I could be wrong.
So this is obtainable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is for normal people.
Yeah,
for sure. But it's beautiful. So I've been given stuff like this, as I just did, as gifts. I bought 1-ounce silver coins from an independent mint with Christmas of a given year on it, and then I just gave it to all the kids in my life this year, and all of them got the old man speech about this right here
has value.
Has value. This is real.
Yeah.
And so I'm just doing that for Christmas and Easter every year. I'm buying the year and the coin. I'm giving it to people. And my buddy opened his business last week, and so I got a special coin with the year on it. And I went up and greeted him a couple hours into his first business day, and I just gave him the coin. It doesn't cost me a ton of money. I mean, it's not an outrageous thing, but just something to be like, hey, you're trying to make something here that has real value. Here's something that has real value to commemorate the occasion. Cool. Good job. And
I love it.
The beauty of it, it's a neat thing, I think.
Yeah, like I'm sitting here holding this, and it's going to, I mean, to be honest, it's probably going to go in a drawer somewhere.
Sure.
And I'm going to open the drawer, and I'm going to see it, and I'm like, There's that thing. There's that coin. And I have the value of it. The physicality of it, I don't know if that's the right word, but like the fact that it is here in 3D meat space and it's not in the hard drive of a computer at my bank, it's a real thing. So
it's repurposable because, once again, it was hard to get that ounce of silver that's in your hand, harder than getting a turd. And also, it has more redeeming value. It's more repurposable than something stupid or useless.
do you want me to show you what I think the most important function of this is?
Yes, I think I would like to see that.
Hold out your hand.
Okay.
Done. I handed it to you.
And now I have $25
I have
of silver.
transferred it to you, and nobody has to know that. So right now, what I'm discovering...
But they do know it because you said it into a microphone.
I did, whatever.
Okay, all right.
Can you hand it back to me? Who knows if you did?
Who knows if I did?
Do I have a coin in my hand? Nobody knows. Oh, did we just change it and do the opposite of what we just said?
Who can say?
Who can say?
It's an untraceable transaction.
So between the two of us, there is $50 worth of silver, and we don't know where it is.
Who could say? I mean,
That's
I
interesting.
lost it in a boating accident.
I think that's important. The concept, it's on a U.S. dollar for all debts, public and private.
Mm-hmm. This episode of No Dumb Questions is brought to you by RAYCON. They make earbuds that we both love and use all the time. What do you like about them?
I like that they fit in my ear well because they have custom ear hole adapters.
Did you actually cycle through all of those?
I did through a couple.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, and currently I've got the little ear hole adapter pack on my newest thing, my newest everydays, and I have to change those out because I want just a little snugger fit. So I'm going to transition over to a different ear hole adapter.
I think I might have the standard issue ear hole.
Yeah?
Like where I'm a little below average in terms of height.
Yeah.
I think I might be precisely average in terms of ear hole diameter.
Yeah.
Because those things right out of the box, they fit great. And so I was like, oh, look, it comes with these things. I could adapt it. Well, let's see what's wrong with the initial fit. Boom. Oh, man, that goes into my ear about as well as the magnets pop back into the box. I think I'm good here. So I go standard.
Have you explored hitting the buttons?
Yeah.
Okay. So what have you discovered?
Okay, if I need to hang up on somebody, because this conversation's just gone on too long, the tap gets that done, and then that kicks music right back on for me if I was already listening. But if not, and I tap it again, then I go back to the last music I was listening.
You can also hold down the button, and that goes to the mode where you can hear everything around you.
Yeah, what's the awareness mode, alertness mode?
I forget the name.
Ears up mode. It's something like that, and it works like a charm.
It's good. Yeah. So if you want to check this out, go to buyraycon.com/NDQ. That gets you 15% off your order. If you want to order, I mean, these things are cost effective. The thing about Raycons is you're not worried about breaking them or losing them. I've never broken mine. But like if you lose them, it's not the end of the world because they're at a great price point, but the quality is there.
And the batteries last for an age. You get 8 hours of playtime or 32 hours of total battery life out of Raycons.
I looked it up. The name of that mode where you can hold the button and then you can hear everything around you is called Don't Get Savagely Mauled by a Grizzly Bear While Fly Fishing mode.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so you can hear the grizzly bears coming. You don't get savagely. You get mauled still, but not savagely.
Oh.
I'm not 100% positive that's the name, but it should be.
Yeah, you get the idea. Thank you for supporting the sponsor, buyraycon.com/NDQ. 15% off your order. We are grateful. Thank you to everyone who supports the podcast. The concept of me being able to like hand that over to you and not replace it immediately, you know, there's scarcity. There's this thing in Ithaca, New York called the Ithaca Hour.
We talked about that when we talked about Bitcoin.
Oh,
way back in the day.
That's right.
No, that's good. I mean, yes, this is familiar to me.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think
what is the Ithaca Hour a measure of? What gives it value?
The Ithaca Hour in Ithaca, New York is a measure of one human's time or life energy for 1 hour.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's still a thing, but it was, you know, I used to really like to read about it back in the day. I don't know. What do you think about, I don't know. You know where I'm at. I just think it's cool that I can hand you something and it has value and it can't be traced. I think that's important for privacy reasons.
Yes.
So this non-fungible token business
that
we're all doing, kind of the idea is there's a decentralized record of someone having ownership, but everybody knows that you have ownership.
Right.
So the value of the decentralized record keeping is the immutability of it, meaning
That unchangeability.
yes,
Yes.
it's final, it's done. The way we do this, when I hand you a coin or you hand me a coin, because nobody knows if I have it or you have it right now.
Say.
The reason we know it happens is because you can go get it out of your drawer and show that you have it.
Yes, exactly.
That's why you have the value and I don't.
But if, say, we both had a 1 ounce silver coin right now in our hands, if we traded the 1 ounce silver coins and they were identical, do we still have the exact same value in our possession?
Huh.
Even though we traded a physical thing. That's what makes it fungible. It's the same value, same thing, tradable.
Just make sure I understand. I understand the concept of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, pretty well. One thing I'm not completely clear on is what the actual word fungible means.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that non-fungible token passes muster definitionally. Fungible means if I have a 50-gallon barrel of oil that's ready to go the right way, that's the exact same thing as that other 50-gallon barrel sitting right over there. Assuming them to be identical upon inspection, it doesn't really matter which barrel you have. It's fungible. It's interchangeable. So the idea of a non-fungible token means that picture of an ape wearing a sailor hat that you have is somehow different than the one that I have that's just a JPEG of it. We could not just exchange those two things and have it have the same value because we said it doesn't. And so the unsatisfying part of that is there being no physical expression of a non-fungible token and no elemental level you could break it back down to. And I think that's why a lot of people are very slow to jump on that bandwagon. I'm sorry. You're looking something up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a definition here. What is fungibility? I'm reading now from a website called Investopedia. Fungibility is the ability of a good or asset to be interchanged with other individual goods or assets of the same type. Fungible assets simplify the exchange and trade processes, as fungibility implies equal value between the assets. So gold is fungible.
Yes.
Because an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold.
If I own an ounce of gold, but you're holding it, and you've got 100 ounces of gold that you're holding for different people, and it's just raw gold, it's not minted a particular way or special, it doesn't matter which of the 100 single ounces you send me when I call it in. You can send me any of them. They're all the same value.
So the Mona Lisa is non-fungible.
There you go.
And why is it non-fungible?
Because, one, it'd be very difficult to paint that again. Two, the materials were used in a permanent way where you can't change it, you can't break it down into its elemental form and have it have any value. The value is who painted it, when they painted it, the material it was painted on, and the value is what all of humanity has done in the several hundred years it's existed to imprint on it and say, that's the freaking Mona Lisa. It's irreplaceable. It's invaluable.
But it's an arrangement of atoms.
Yeah.
So look behind you over there. You see that table?
Yeah.
That's what my wife calls Destin's hobby table.
That is a dumpster fire.
It is not a dumpster fire. It's beautiful.
Disagree.
So every little box you see there contains film.
Yeah, that part I like.
Yeah, and on every single shot of the film, there is a moment in time that was captured. I have images over there from 1945, August 1945, taken in Paris.
I've seen them. They're amazing.
Yeah. Some of the images are on acetate film. Some of them are on glass.
Yeah.
But those are non-fungible.
The negative is non-fungible.
Okay, go on.
If you printed them and made 100 copies that are identical in every way from the printing process, and you set up a website that was like, buy Destin's picture of Paris from 1945.com. You can buy it, but I'll hold it, and then you let me know when you want it. I'll keep it for safekeeping. And then 100 people buy it, and eventually the first one, Patty, she's like, all right, I'm going to need my picture. You're not going to go and be like, okay, well, it has to be picture number 7. There are 100 identical prints. Doesn't matter which one you send her. It's just a print. So that is fungible. It's entirely interchangeable within the limits of how many exist. In this case, we say 100. But the negative, right now, there's only one.
Yes.
And you couldn't just be like, well, I'm going to give you one of a squid taken in 1963 by Jacques Cousteau's crew. Like, well, no, that's not the same thing. Those aren't interchangeable. I own the Paris negative. You can't send me the squid negative. Right?
Yeah. And that's what's interesting about all that. Some of my favorite ones over there were taken from the coast of Brittany, France, like at the turn of the 1900s. And you've got these, they look like schoolgirls, and they're wearing bonnets. And in the background, you can see these sailboats that are clearly fishing boats, and they have nets with weights on them, and the weights are just rocks tied into the rope. And it's this weird, like, whoa, that looks modern, but that looks ancient at the same time. And what's amazing is a photographer went to the coast of Brittany, France over 100 years ago and snapped a photo, and somehow some redneck in Alabama now has that on his hobby table.
And it's irreplaceable.
Getting back to NFTs, non-fungible tokens, I think we're trying to create scarcity out of something that... So let me say it this way. The technology behind NFTs is interesting to me because you could do something like say, hey, I have this concert ticket, and this is the only copy of this concert ticket. Right now, what we do is we scan a barcode, and this barcode lets you into the concert.
The barcode is copyable.
It's copyable.
Yeah.
An NFT is copyable as well, but there are technologies where you can actually prove that you have ownership because you own this secret code, you own this address, and that's where the crypto and the cryptocurrency comes along.
Yes, which Star Wars anticipated with the concept of chain code.
What?
Way back in the day.
What?
I think chain code is original canon from early in the days of Star Wars.
Is that in the movies?
It featured most recently in
Clone Wars?
Mandalorian Season 2 when Boba Fett's like, that's my armor. And he shows, like, this was given to my father.
The Beskar.
And he pulls up the Beskar, and he pulls it up out of his wrist, and it projects into the air, and it shows what do they call the Star Wars? Arabesh, I think is the name of their script in Star Wars universe. It shows the Arabesh, if I'm getting that right, chain code, and it's just a whole bunch of digits and stuff that I don't know what it means or anything. And Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, looks at it and is like, oh yeah, that checks out. Like, you have the chain code. So that armor is an NFT. Boba Fett's armor is an NFT in the physical world that is verified by a blockchain, by a chain code that is a unique identifier that cannot be duplicated. So the physical presence, the physical ownership, possession is 9/10 of the law, coupled with the digital ownership code is enough for Boba Fett to show someone else in that universe, I own this armor, it is owed to me, and for someone else to say, yes, in this universe, that is what ownership looks like on every level. It is irrefutably yours.
Wow. Huh. That's interesting. So one level of value is I have these atoms.
Arranged. Yes.
Yeah. Another level of value is the human agreement of ownership. Is that right?
Which is very easy when you have that. I mean, this is in my hand.
It's more of an extrinsic thing. So we have the intrinsic ownership that is the atoms.
Yes.
And then we have this extrinsic thing that is, oh, well, I agree that you own it. That's interesting because right now your bank account is set up for all, hold on, let's go back. Fiat. Let's talk about fiat. So fiat is when a currency doesn't actually have any intrinsic value. It's not backed by gold. We agree that there's value, and we're kind of holding each other hostage to be like, hey, $1's a dollar, right? And you're like, yeah, $1's a dollar. Okay, cool, great, because $1's a dollar. I would like a Coke, please.
Yes.
And as long as we both agree $1's a dollar, can I have that Coke? You know what I mean?
But the market don't lie. So if you invent, because we don't even physically print money when we do this. If you invent, say, $6 trillion in a very short period of time, by just
Dogecoin.
announcing
What?
By just announcing that now the government sponsors these ones and zeros that represent money, and we sent you a check with no physical cash that everybody can put in their bank that represents money. If you introduce $6 trillion, the market will notice that, and we will all, without meaning to agree to it, agree that now that dollar is worth less. It purchases less. Let's instead say that $25 chunk purchases less. But your silver coin that you're holding should stay almost exactly relative to the same amount of goods and services, regardless of what amount of printing happens with fiat currency. Because this is a different kind of value than we all agree something is worth this much and it's really just kind of fake. You're right in identifying, the way you're talking about the different expressions of value, the different things that make it valuable. But there are also, right in there, the two competing theories of value that people have had through the centuries about, just in terms of talking about economics. Do you know this off the top of your head, the main competing theories of value?
No, I don't.
Well, let's just game it out. What makes something valuable in general? What determines what something is worth? Let me ask it that way.
What determines what supply and demand?
Okay. So that's the market theory of value.
Yeah, that's the market theory of value.
Yes, and I think that's truth.
So what is the demand from the population, and then how much of it exists, and that changes how much people will want to give to get it.
Yes. What is my used phone worth monetarily?
Probably $100.
Or to put it another way, whatever anyone is willing to pay for it today.
Oh, the market value.
Right. That's the truest thing that we all agree on.
Yeah.
In all of life. Not issues about social stuff or sex or identity or taxes or any war, like none of those political hot button issues, nobody agrees. The thing where we have the most shared agreement amongst us, even if we're very different people, is what a thing is worth on a given day.
Yeah.
The market makes that a truth that we have in common. And there's unifying power in that we underestimate and underutilize right now in our society and in modern life. I agree with almost everyone about what almost everything is worth. And what a cool thing to just be able to say, we might disagree about so much else, but we agree on this value. That's pretty cool. We have values in common.
I have opinions about this. When you start jacking with that, like if you say, hey, food has value, and so in order to eat, you need to contribute some value.
Yes.
And so when you start saying, you know what, you can just eat no matter what, if you change the way that people get money, it changes people's desire to provide services in order to, exchange money for food. Well, their desire to do that. It basically changes the demand for a person to work.
If money is real and has real value, it creates one type of human motivation and one type of motivation for us to interact in ways that are good. If money is fake, it creates a different set of motivations and I think can put friction between us unnecessarily in terms of how we interact. But also, if you don't do something to include and onboard and on-ramp and care for folks who are just getting into the game, that wrecks the game too. Like everybody's got to play in order for the value game to work, or it scrambles what makes something worth a certain thing. So people who are in the game, earning, spending, buying, determining values, are behooved to always be expanding the circle and welcoming new people in. Young people as they come up through the ranks, people who've made mistakes and are trying to get back into society, folks who got dealt a real tough hand. It is best for the truth of the market, for everybody who's in the game and playing, to always be welcoming with that circle. The more of us who are playing the value game, the more accurate the values are, and the better everyone will do.
All ships rise with the tide. Yeah.
Absolutely. The mall is the market. Like you go to the mall, you're doing business, but also like you're there to see people. You're there to interact and people watch and engage. And going to market, no matter what political persuasion you're of, is a beautiful, integral expression of what it is to be a human. I'm taking things that are representative of my life energy that I own, and I'm going out to see what it's worth, and I like some things that your life energy has produced, and we're going to exchange some things. What it's implicitly saying is you're valuable, my friend. What you've done, it's not what I do. I'm not like you. I don't share the skills or abilities or values that you share necessarily, but I see the value in it from a distance, and I'm hoping you'll see the value in the things I've used my life energy on, and that we could swap some things. It's a very affirming thing between us,
well,
a unifying
It's
thing.
all about efficiency. Like we are more efficient together than we are you trying to grow your own grain and trying to build your own car.
Yes.
we're more efficient when we work together. And so you go do the thing you're good at, I'll do the thing I'm good at, and then we use the market as this way to touch each other and basically help. I think there's two primary market forces. I'm making this up. I'm not an economist. I feel dumb saying that as if I know what I'm talking about.
There are two that come to mind right off the top of your head. What are they?
Yeah. The first one is the avoidance of pain, and the second is the desire for pleasure. And so the reason I want to buy food is because of the hunger pain in my stomach.
And if it's tasty food, it's also the pull factor is that's going to taste good.
Yeah, and then the other thing is the anticipation of a pleasure. Like I might go to the mall to buy clothes because I would really like non-ripped pants, and that would be pleasurable to me to wear blue jeans. That I would like that. It would also help me avoid the pain of cold and stuff like that.
So theory of value number one is one that you and I agree on. A thing is worth whatever people will pay on a given day. And if you mess with that, which you can do with violence, with threats, with force, with lying, that has serious consequences. But the second theory of value that personally I reject is the labor theory of value. And the labor theory of value, you know this one? Have you heard this one? You remember this from school?
No.
This is value is determined by the amount of time a person spent. So if I go to work for X number of hours.
Like the Ithaca hour.
Yeah. So the workers came together to build a car. The entrepreneurs and risk takers and financiers, they don't really own the value of the car. The workers who physically took the metal and put it together to make the car, the labor is what makes the car valuable.
The life force that goes into it.
Yeah. And what I would say is the weakness of the labor theory of value is it doesn't take into account the market side. The strength of the market side is it does take into account the labor, but the labor is only part of the equation. A whole bunch of other intangibles are the rest of the equation, and I think the market theory of value is more reflective of reality.
Yeah, when I would do cost estimates for things as an engineer, I would do materials and labor.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think everyone's labor is not the same.
No.
Yeah, like I'm going to
I don't think that's a mean thing to say.
Yeah, I'm going to pay a surgeon more money to operate on me than I would pay you to operate on me.
Why would you pay me to operate on you?
I would not. So, yeah, that's an interesting concept.
So then that dovetails into money, because physical money, coinage, metals, fiat currency, paper, all of these things tell a story about your theory of value. So for me, part of the appeal of physical resource money that I can put in your hand as a friend and be like, there is 1 ounce of silver. And maybe I just physically did that. Or maybe you gave it back. Or maybe you didn't. Is no one else needs to know or participate in the transaction. That's of value. But also, it doesn't matter what outsiders do to try to mess with the value of that coin. Short of going and finding a whole bunch of silver and flooding the market with it, the value of that is what the value of that is. And so it's a secure transaction in that it happens away from other people's opinions, but it's also a secure transaction in that it's very hard to come in 2 minutes after I hand you that and jack up the value of that coin and wreck it and make it so now it was valuable when I gave it to you, but now it's trash.
I don't know. Man, we should talk more about this later. This episode of No Dumb Questions is sponsored by HelloFresh, the meal kit delivery system, I'll call it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's good. They deliver food right to your door. They've got a little recipe card, the right amount of ingredients, the whole bit. You just get online, you just pick the meals you want, and it shows up, and you get to make it, and it's awesome. And I have an update for you, Matt.
I'm ready for your update.
Do you remember how I told you that one of my friends is making these HelloFresh meals, and he's like going all in? He's like, I'm going to make a HelloFresh every night. You remember that?
He's taking pictures, like super beautiful pictures, you said.
Yeah, exactly.
You got some?
Yeah, so he made a post on Instagram, and HelloFresh commented on his photos.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
HelloFresh commented, "You are a 5-star chef. This is looking incredible." And then they tagged him on there. So, yeah, they tagged Carson is cooking.
Do I have the opportunity to see it? Because you keep holding the phone is pointing toward you, and
Oh.
I was wanting to look at the photograph. Oh, the photograph isn't on here.
It's on there. It's just small.
Oh my, that is a beautiful presentation.
He did good. didn't he?
Yeah, look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He put the shrimp in a pattern. It's like a little coil pattern on either side of it. It looks like pork cutlets.
I wonder if he's got like some golden ratio stuff
That's
going on there.
beautiful. I continue to just really, really like HelloFresh. And you know how back in the day, bands would produce albums as opposed to just songs that go on Spotify like we do it now. Like you'd have a whole album and it would mean something. And each thing was meant to complement the other songs in some way. It almost like it told a story or something. And it's fun to go back to those albums where you just got the first thing you liked and you fixated on it. It's fun to go back and catch all the deep cuts and discover the genius that you didn't catch on the first pass. And I feel like that's what I'm doing with HelloFresh right now, is discovering that I thought I knew what was there. And there's just so much more horizon expansion available to me.
Dude, that's great and all, but I'm sitting here looking at Carson is Cooking on Instagram, my buddy, and he's got chops, man. He's doing a really good job. He's got this fancy Japanese knife. Dude is going through some HelloFresh. I'm kind of emotionally invested in his HelloFresh journey right now.
I see why. Yeah, he's sparing no thought in. It's like painting with food. This is beautiful.
Yeah, it's really
I'm
cool.
impressed.
Yeah, so HelloFresh can be whatever you want it to be. It can just get the job done. It can feed you and the family. It can also be a whole experience in and of itself.
However you eat, it's gonna work. Like
Yeah.
whatever your weird thing is, however you like to do it, it's gonna work.
Yeah, you're a vegetarian. They got vegetarian meals. You want to do more lower calorie stuff, they can do that.
Quick stuff.
You like meat like Matt, you
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
Seems like they're always adding new menu things. They do seasonal menu things. They got salmon and a pasta primavera option that I saw were cropping up right now. If you want to add protein to a vegetable meal, you can do that. There's all kinds of customizing options now. I think that's really smart.
Check it out. What is our promo code is IndieQ16 and you get 16 free meals. So
Yep.
if you want it, go to HelloFresh.com/IndieQ16. Use the promo code IndieQ16 at checkout. 16 free meals. It's hard to beat.
And 3 free gifts.
Awesome. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for supporting the podcast by supporting the sponsors. HelloFresh.com/IndieQ16. Promo code IndieQ16 at checkout. I don't want to criticize the gift you gave me,
Why would you even start with something like that?
but I
If
have
you-
something to
Come
say
on.
that concerns me.
Okay.
Okay, so you know how all coins have ridges on the side of them?
I do.
Look at the bottom side of this coin. That's a silver coin. Look at the bottom side of it.
Yes.
You can see that part of that coin does not have ridges. Do you see it?
I do see that.
So the reason ridges were originally added to coins was to prevent people from taking out a pocket knife and shaving the edges off the coin to skim some of the value away from the coins.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Matt, but I'm afraid this coin is not intrinsically worth $25 to me because it looks like it hasn't been minted to its full volumetric atomic weight or whatever.
I do not want to criticize the gift of your presence, but your face. That said, what's going on here is different, though, because this claims to be 1 troy ounce of silver.
Okay.
You take that out of its little plastic case, and you just empirically go put it on a scale. It's a troy ounce of silver.
Mm.
So we have ways to get around the deficiencies of shaving. Why is it that way? Well, it would seem so that whatever this little code or detail is here
Uh-huh.
can be imprinted on the ridge. So on the
Huh.
edge of the coin, there's
Oh, it's
some
a
sort
number of the coin.
identifier.
This is coin number 4104.
Right,
What is that
so
one?
This is coin number. The tab is right in the way. I can't.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
have
hard,
to
it's hard
move
to
it.
read it.
And so the
but that's
idea
the thing,
here-
right? The
Oh, yes.
the ridges. There's a word for the ridges on the outside of a coin. What is that word?
I can't remember it, and someday I will, and it'll be great, but it will be far from here. So, for example, take a look at this coin.
Oh, this is different. Oh, this looks old.
This is a whole other rabbit trail we will pursue in a future conversation. But what you're holding there,
It's copper. This was cast.
yes,
This was not. Okay, so there's when it comes to making metal, you've got forgings and castings. And forgings are, I'm going to hit it really hard and it's going to assume the shape, and all the little voids inside the metal, the little air pockets, they get squished out. So that's a forging. It's strange because on one side it appears to be cast.
mm-hmm.
I may be wrong about that, but it at least looks like it. And then on the other, it's only hit on one side or struck on one side, and it appears to be. Good grief! Oh, it's a head facing to the right.
There we go.
And the person has. I mean, I can almost determine an ethnicity of the face, like it.
Tread lightly, Sandlin. What ethnicity would you say that is? And what features are you looking at to determine this?
I don't want to say because
It's best not to do armchair phrenology in this day and age.
what's phrenology? What is
That's
that?
the thing where you look at the shape of somebody's forehead and determine their relative intelligence level.
Oh.
It's like 19th century eugenics, like height of human bigotry.
Is it really?
Yeah, yeah.
Where is this coin from?
That is a early 4th century coin minted by Constantine the Great.
Early 4th century. Forgive me. Where is this? So Turkey?
Roman. So, yeah, Constantine had holdings in the Western Empire, the old Roman Empire, but he's the guy who really officialized the move east. So modern-day Istanbul was Constantinople. Constantinople is named for Constantine I, Constantine the Great, who defeated...
Insert They Might Be Giants song here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He defeated his rival Maxenitis at the Battle of Milvian Bridge to secure power over the full east and west and centralized the headquarters of government in Constantinople.
Is this copper?
I assume that it is, and I think it might have had a silver wash over the top at some point. I see hints of it on there. That, again, like currency and intentional devaluing of currency is something we need to talk. It's a bigger conversation for another time. But what's noteworthy about that coin is that you identified it correctly. It was struck, or it was cast and then struck.
Okay.
So maybe with an old sand mold, somebody cut out several circles for the blanks for the coins, and then there's a little channel in between, a tab that goes in between so that when you dump in your copper, in this case, it goes into the first and then it distributes. It runs down like when you fill an ice tray with water
Yeah.
before you put it in the fridge. And so then once that hardens, comes out, you use metal shears to take off the tabs that connect all of the blanks. You're picturing what I'm saying? So you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
8 blanks connected with little tiny tabs in between, like breakaway tabs.
Yeah.
You throw those in a bin, melt it down, and use them again on the next batch. Now you have the blank, and presumably at the temple of Juno Moneta in the Roman Forum, you can still go stand on the spot where that temple operated for all those centuries. Some coinsmith in there put that blank into this mint and struck it. And as a result, you get the impression on the obverse and reverse, one of which is very worn down. So you really only get a good look at the figure on the one side, and on the other side, it's very difficult to see because it's an 1,800-year-old coin, 1,700-year-old coin.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's only just now occurring to me that this is 1,800 years old. Like,
Yeah.
you said it, and I was like, okay, whatever, history. But then I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
A lot of people have lived and died since this coin was struck.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things every day that you hold in your hand that were made by people and made by people 1,700 years ago.
What is this called? What is this coin called?
I don't know. It's
Really?
difficult to identify. I've got it down to one of 4 or 5 coins that were struck during the time of Constantine,
Really?
but I'm not 100% positive as to what it is yet. I need to get my mitts on a few more to compare.
How much did you pay for this?
Not a ton.
Yeah.
That kind of coinage right there was in circulation up to the time of Napoleon. Roman coinage was still being used up until the early 1800s in Europe.
Are you serious?
Mineral value, man. The 2 features that give it value are it's
Intrinsic.
it's weight and mineral, and then who stands behind it? Well, the Romans stand behind it. And up until the modern age, history was looking back in Europe to say, like, we were at our best when Rome was in charge. Yeah, we still use their roads. We still use their money. We still use their laws. We still use their ideas. They knew how to do war better. And you go into the Middle Ages, and it's just kind of this big bummer. And people are like, yeah, we're trying to get back to that. We built castles of stone and marble back then. Now we build them out of logs. It's just not the same. And so classical humanism, think about all the art of the Renaissance. Is it looking forward or is it looking back? It's trying to recapture the artistry of the Greeks and the Romans. So the same thing happened with their money. The cultural assumption was Rome represents authority. The old myth of Juno Moneta, the god, bequeaths this value to you. that lingered for a real long time into the modern age. So the reason we still have this sitting around is not because some collector kept it for 1,000 years and handed it down through his family. It's because that was probably getting used.
Because some French guy traded this for a pint.
There you go. Yeah, that had value. It still has value, but that had street currency, tradable. Oh, yeah, I recognize that coin value until a couple hundred years ago.
You avoided my question. Was this $200?
No. You can get a coin like that for a reasonable price.
Say the number.
I don't know. Like, you can get a coin like that for a reasonable price.
You don't want to?
I don't remember.
Okay.
That would maybe be worth $50 or less.
Okay.
Heck, maybe 10 or less. I don't know. I think it had silver on it at one point. Again, something for a future conversation. And as the silver wash that it got dipped in, I mean, originally that probably looked like a shiny silver nickel. But gradually that goes away. It's rubbed off on hands and in pockets and whatnot. It's exposed for what it is, which is a not that valuable coin that's part of a government deception. Again, longer conversation about the devaluing of currency.
Oh, are we going to have that conversation?
Not
about
here, but yes.
About it kind of goes into the shaving coin things.
It does.
But not the shaving of the coin. It's the what's the word? Dilution of
debasement.
Debasement, that's the term?
Yeah.
When you change the alloy?
Yes.
Oh.
And still hold it out as being of the same value as the previous thing.
Oh, so you effectively just make money out of nothing.
Yes.
You it's kind of a partial lie because you change the you change the intrinsic value, but you tell people that the extrinsic value is the same.
You're reasoning backwards to why this is a longer conversation. But the reason I gave you that coin was, one, to tease this future conversation, and two, to show you, look at the edges on that. One of those edges is a clean cut where the tab came off after it was molded.
Yeah.
The other edges have just gradually been worn down by contact or nipped just a little bit here and there.
Oh.
There isn't any reason to nip it once it gets down to the copper because the copper's not worth anything. So the nips that are on that happened back when the silver wash was still on it. And to the disappointment of some, the first time they probably trimmed that edge, they were like, what? How come there's a bunch of dark metal in the... Oh, dang it, Emperor, you got me again. Okay. And so there wasn't really much of a reason to keep trimming the edges of that coin, and that's why it's in relatively good condition.
Because it's copper, it wasn't silver.
Yeah, so there's just no human motivation to steal the value off the edges because you're not getting much.
Which is interesting because quarters are like that now. They have different materials. Dude, this is what's interesting about this. Destin's hobby table over there.
Yeah.
That's what I like to collect. And the reason I like to collect those is they're stories.
Yes.
Like individual, like a photo, one single photo tells an entire story. And so
Yes.
there's probably 3,000 photo negatives over there. And sometimes I just sit down with a little light panel and I pull out the film and I look at it and I just imagine who this person is. What are they doing? There's a couple of interesting things I've been doing lately. For some reason, I like boats in photos. I like looking at photos of boats because I imagine what it would be like to be a sailor. I'm not a sailor, but I, that's like exploration. So I really like looking at those. I also like looking at photos of old sports teams. So imagine the leather helmet football type thing.
Sure.
Or the really weird looking baseball mitts. I like looking at those photos because that was a group of people that were together. And they were together for a short period of time, and they had interactions and all that. So anyway, that's what I like doing. To me, you wanting to collect coins, can we say at this point you're a coin collector?
Yeah, my collection's not very impressive, but yeah, I think they're neat.
I'm willing to say I'm a film collector.
I'm not where you are with film with coins, but yes, I'm a coin collector, sure.
Okay. What I think is cool is this makes total sense because of who you are.
What do you mean?
You understand ancient governments, or you at least like to research ancient governments and the struggle for power and the push between this kingdom and that. And a coin is a way for that big organization that is the government to push its power into the people in a very interesting way, into the fabric of their lives.
Yes.
And so I can see how this would be interesting to you in very I mean, there's a ton of different ways why I could see that your mind would like it, which is why it's interesting that you handed me a coin that was not minted by a government in the modern age. I can see why this is also interesting to you. 1,800 years from now, nobody's going to pick up this coin and say, oh, look, this was minted by the United States of America or whatever. They're just going to be like, oh, look, somebody thought silver was neat, and so they made a coin. And so that's a very different thing. So it doesn't have the weight of the history behind it. This is more like a, it looks like they copied the eagle landing on the moon from the $50 pieces. That's the Apollo 11. There was an eagle landing on the moon with an olive branch on the Apollo 11 patch. And in Michael Collins' book, he tells the story of why they chose that eagle. But it looks like they copied that eagle to get some of the, what does the word regal mean? Regality. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, the authoritative.
Yeah.
But authoritative from almost a monarchy perspective. Just this is authoritative because of authority.
Well, it's
embodiment of authority.
This is different because it wasn't minted by a government. This is if there's a person's like, hey, this really cool thing happened and it should be commemorated.
And there's nobility in that apart from anything involving the state.
But it does have men's faces on it. It has their names on it. Michael Collins, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, 50th anniversary. I don't know. It's just a really interesting thing. It strikes me as odd that you handed me this coin and not a Chinese panda. Or I guess they're...
Yeah, why would I give you that?
Those are expensive, right?
Well, no, you can get those in a silver too.
But I don't know. It's just interesting.
Well,
So
what would it have meant on a friend level if I gave you a Chinese panda in a silver?
I see.
It would mean here's $25.
I see.
Why on earth would I give you $25?
So you gave me this because you know I like space.
Yes, there's a reason that when it was your birthday, the first year that we were friends, I didn't send you $79.
Ah.
I sent you cool pants because they're comfortable and they have a gusseted crotch and it makes it easier to do active things while wearing durable pants outside.
Yeah.
And I thought, I bet you'll like those pants too.
Yeah.
The $79 would have been a stupid gift. Like if I just gave you $25.08 right now, it would be weird. But instead, I'm like, this has intrinsic value. People work to get it out of the ground. That metal is something that if you ever need it, you can melt that down and use it for different purposes. And further, look what's on it. You care about that too.
I do.
And so this immortal metal is combined with this immortal moment as something that has value, and implicitly it reinforces that that moment has value.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that's why I want to give somebody something like that. And now I'm to the place where if I see a coin that has anything on it that reminds me of somebody I really care about, I'm like, oh, I'm buying that coin. I know exactly who to give that to because it just says something. And that's the objective.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the gift.
You're super welcome.
Yeah. And nobody knows how many of these things I have in my hand.
No,
I do have
who could
one,
know?
at least.
At least one.
Do I have a second?
Or you did a second ago.
Yeah.
Who could say?
Maybe
I just
hold
took
your
it.
hand out. I
Okay.
may or may not have put that back in your hand.
I don't know if I have it or not. And no one does. This is off the books. There is no blockchain. Yeah. Well, thanks for being a good friend. And thanks for understanding what I was going for and giving you something as simple as a little silver coin with a spaceship on it.
Thank you for imparting value into my life.
That's the objective. The give and take of friendship, I think, is better expressed in silver than it is in paper.